Research and recording of Canadian Creepies happens on the shared land and traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. A key treaty governing this territory is the Dish with One Spoon Agreement. The treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We all share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, meaning we must take care of the land and the creatures we share it with.
Although some of you may think witch trials were perhaps exclusive to Salem in the 1600s, and while that is true, meaning while there was witch trials in Salem in the 1600s, we have evidence of witch trials being practiced as late as the 1920s.
Gnarly. Super cool.
And also in doing my research, I feel like this will be like a part 2 thing because I didn't really get to it. But there's a case from 2018.
2018. That's like
called like the last witch called the last witch trial.
Okay.
Or is referred to as that, but that'll be a part 2 thing.
I mean, we have generations now that believe they have witch in them.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
I feel like you do. I feel like you do because
Could
I
manifest
do.
it.
For all of you, I can link this in the show notes. For any practicing witches out there, spells8.com is a great resource.
Oh, yeah, you showed me that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just has like some nice lunar rituals you can do and some nice meditations.
Maybe like a hex or two if you didn't like the person.
Yeah, well,
maybe.
So before we can talk about some of the witch trials, and I say witch trials in quotes because our history is just like so intertwined with Indigenous history here.
Yes.
That you'll see.
Okay.
That you'll see.
I'm intrigued.
But so I do have to talk about like a little bit of the history of witchcraft law in North America.
Okay, I have to say before we start,
okay,
if anybody knows, they know, I drew for my mom for one of her Christmas gifts a potion from the movie The Witches.
From the incredible imagination of Jim Henson and director Nicholas Roeg comes a fascinating new fantasy adventure, The Witches. For when a little boy accidentally stumbles into their secret world, he finds they've got a lot more power than he ever imagined.
Grandma, it's me, Luke. Luke. They turned me into a mouse. Oh, my. It was the Grand High Witch.
Join Luke on his remarkable journey. Now, the witches are on his tail.
Whoa.
And he must scurry around their evil plots. Squeak past every danger. Finally setting the trap that will save the world from the witches.
You are in for a treat.
We must stop them.
Oh, love.
Which is literally one of my favorites. Growing up, we watched it, and there's witches and then there's witches, and they were like a class of witches that I absolutely was terrified and enthralled by at the same time.
Is that the ones with the wigs?
Yes. And
okay.
the mice, Bruno Jenkins.
Yes.
Yes.
I've seen the new one and the original.
Okay,
I've watched them both.
I hated the new one. I hated it.
You didn't like it at all?
No,
the one with Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, I hated it.
I'd never seen the original. I saw that one first.
See watch the original because, my God, it's just so. I mean, she nothing against her. It was just so modernized.
Right.
I just thought I was more creeped out. It was too CGI-y.
Right. But is The Witches, that movie, isn't it based off a Roald Dahl book?
Oh, it could have been. I thought you were going to say Rowan Atkinson. I'm like, he was also in it.
Yeah, Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean was in it, and and the Grand High Witch, and yeah. Anyways, it was.
But that's a good movie. Doesn't he end up? I don't know. Spoiler.
It's on. I think I rented it on YouTube for like $3.99, but it's also.
I think it's on Prime Video.
It could be, yeah. And it's just so good. So yes, there's all different classes of witches.
Totally.
You know, then there's like the I'm gonna get you, my pretty, and you know, and it's
and then we could talk about Wicked.
Hey, yeah. Neve's
Also,
going to see Wicked for Christmas.
The musical?
Yep.
Wow.
She does it. Some people, it's a tradition to do a movie, go to the movies for Christmas Day.
Yeah.
That's what Neen's tradition is.
Nice. Shout out to Neen.
I kind of like it. Yeah, and she's going to see Wicked.
I love that. I would love to see. I loved the movie. I'm very excited for
I
part
don't think
2.
I've heard of one person not liking it or like showing a bad review take on it on any platform yet. That's how much people are loving it.
It is because it wasn't slapped together. Everything was intricately everything was intricate and what's the word I'm looking for? Personal almost.
Yeah, it is personal. It's very spiritual.
Very
I think it
spiritual.
hit Ariana Grande on his. Nothing against her. I just think she's taken on a different look now. And
yeah, I love it for her.
She looks like, I don't know how to describe it. Like she looks like she's lost weight, but she was already petite, but she looks and sounds happy. So I think I think this film, she went through it.
Yeah. It's hard work.
She's come out of it on a different. She just doesn't look like or sound like the old Ariana, which I don't think the old Ariana was in a great mindset. Mm-hmm. I think she had gone through it too with Mac Miller and
totally.
So,
but she had also said in her.
And she grew up in like the Disney World, didn't she? Which
so
is
that's
like
just a lot.
Yeah, that's
we can't even comprehend that.
But anyways, yeah, apparently Wicked is next level.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I will watch
that's
it
what I was
at some
going to say.
point.
Everything was intricate and purposeful.
Purposeful.
Not personal.
Okay, yeah.
Very purposeful. It's 10 out of 10.
And that's a different type of witch, right? And then you have like
there's Glinda the Good Witch.
Yeah, but then you have like
the Wicked Witch of the East.
I'd be intrigued to see like an indigenous take on a witch. Like, what would they look like? What would they? There's like because in the movie The Witches, they were just everyday
like women.
Mm-hmm.
They were like white women. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but no, black cats were like each one of them had a black cat.
Yes. Yeah. That's an interesting take. I think like modern day witchcraft.
Mishka. I think Mishka, that was her name, the cat's name in the
okay. I think like modern day witchcraft is more just like thinking like the universe and just like working with natural elements.
It is.
Just like meditating and just like aligning yourself with like I don't know, nature.
It's true. It's more like spiritually.
It's more spiritual,
holistic
than it is double toil and trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good way of putting it. You always have a good way of putting it.
Aw, thank you. The history of prosecuting witchcraft as a crime has a very long history in North America.
Yeah, I feel bad for like those that were tried as a witch simply because the man was like, she knows too much. She witnessed something. Yeah, I'm going to make her look crazy.
Have you ever listened to any episodes about or any podcasts or read anything about the Salem witch trials?
I've heard bits and bits from different sources.
So a lot of like the accusations made in Salem were from like a bunch of snotty 12-year-old girls who just like and one of the girls was like the daughter of someone powerful. So they just like had to take everything she said into consideration. So like these families were like losing their mothers and wives all because this 12-year-old was like, I don't like her.
Yeah.
Witch. Yeah. And then all her friends would be like, witch. Yeah. Just the worst.
Yeah.
Ugh. The Historia Haudenosaunee viewed witchcraft as a very serious offense. So there you go.
A huge offense. Okay.
A huge offense. Because witchcraft could endanger anyone in the community. People took accusations of witchcraft very seriously. So this version of witchcraft to the Haudenosaunee isn't anything. I feel like because the Haudenosaunee and indigenous peoples already work with the earth, are already so intertwined with the earth, and that the term witchcraft refers to something else entirely.
You're toying with like almost like sadistic, like
yes,
evil,
yes, like nefarious forces.
Which now I'm thinking of The Craft. That was another one.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I've been told I look like that chicken with the huge.
Oh
teeth
yeah, Fariza Balk.
Yeah, I love her.
Love her.
But,
that is your celebrity doppelganger. I can see that.
She's not bad. Yeah,
she's a babe.
Yeah.
Practicing witchcraft also went against the core principles of unity and peace found in the Great Law. The Great Law refers to the guiding principles of life in the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, or otherwise known as the Iroquois Confederacy.
Okay.
Like, this is what I mean. It's so intertwined.
Intertwined.
Yeah. So the Haudenosaunee or Iroquois Confederacy is a constitutional democracy and alliance of 6 indigenous nations. So it was the Mohawk, and the term Mohawk means people of the flint. Oneida, that's another tribe, meaning people of the standing stone. Onondaga, which means people of the hills. Cayuga, meaning people of the great swamp. Seneca, meaning peoples of the great hill. And Tuscarora joined the Confederation around 1720.
Oh my gosh,
they didn't tell me what their name meant.
No.
This confederacy is often described as one of the world's oldest participatory democracies, which is really cool.
That is neat.
Really cool. The Confederacy's constitution, known as the Great Law of Peace, is believed to have influenced the American Constitution.
Okay.
So really cool.
Holy crap. That's,
right?
I mean,
like so
not
much.
a small thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not a small influence.
Correct.
Yeah.
The Confederacy's traditional lands include much of modern-day New York State. So it's like in Canada, but also
cool.
Much of, yeah. The Haudenosaunee govern themselves through matriarchal hierarchy and a men's council, which I love. Matriarchal hierarchy? Come on. Talk about the life. I would love that. And then they have a separate men's council.
Yeah, stay separate.
Yeah,
over there.
Keep it separate. The government included chiefs who were married with men and children. But the clan mother had the authority to remove a chief if they were not acting in the best interest of the people. What do you think about that?
I love it.
Right? So ultimately, the clan mother had the final say. She oversaw everyone.
Yeah.
In Canada, so that's just what the Great Law was.
Yeah.
And that's what governed the indigenous people.
I wonder how much like less crime and like less chaoticness there was with that in place.
I wonder how peaceful it was. Well, because also we talked about the Wendigo, which the Wendigo, that monster.
Yes.
Which told of like people who were too greedy, it would get them, and people who were like starving, it could get them. So it meaning that everybody had to share everything, right?
Yes.
So these people were just like governed themselves based on making sure everybody had enough.
I've come to learn and experience that actually men are a lot more dramatic than any girl I know.
So dramatic.
It's so funny. It's so
Do you see Jake Paul's entrance to the Mike Tyson fight?
Oh my gosh, give me a break.
Yeah.
Just give me a break.
In Canada, pretending to practice witchcraft was illegal until 2018. So note that the crime is pretending to practice witchcraft and not actually practicing witchcraft. Because if it was in the law, practicing witchcraft is illegal, then we would have to acknowledge that witchcraft is real.
Okay, I see.
This law was implemented in 1892 and was based off of a previous 1735 British statute which condemned fraudulent claims of occult power. Right, so in order to not give the occult more power, that's why they said practice.
Right.
That's why they use that verbiage.
Right.
The statute attempted to remove earlier religious rhetoric prior to the 18th century, which presumed and enforced that witches were indeed a very justifiable and dangerous threat to humanity.
Right.
Instead, the 1735 statute suggested that claiming occult powers were inherently fraudulent, thus upholding the notion that witches were not real. Logistically, it was intended to limit fraud and preying on the naive and desperate. So, like...
And entertainment, I feel.
Yeah.
It was like a hanging. It was like a beheading. Like, people loved that shit.
They did love it.
You know?
They did love it.
It was like, or even Gladiator.
Yeah,
what was that? You know? Which the second one is really good if anyone wants to watch.
I think you said that last episode.
Oh, did
too.
I? Yeah, I'm like,
no, maybe we talked about it before.
Talked about it, yeah. But it's same thing. It's all for, like, these things were... witch trials, like, hey, any excuse, I feel.
Yeah, and
You know.
also mob mentality is very real. And
Yes.
especially like when there's like a lack of education and a lack of independent thought. Mob mentality is like rapid fire in these scenarios.
So true.
Much earlier witchcraft laws could be used to prosecute vulnerable or marginalized women.
Bang on with what I was thinking in my head.
Exactly. I knew you'd get
Yeah.
there.
I don't know where I heard it, but I just remember that being a very specific point where it was like something like a cheating scandal being exposed, potentially exposed by the wife. The husband would do something like, I'm going to call you out for being a witch to cover my own ass, and that will get you. It's like silencing the potential threat against yourself. Yeah. Which is just crazy to think that, like, back in the day, you could be like, she's a witch, and everyone would be like, one, this is entertainment for us to watch potentially, and two, yeah, she probably is.
Yeah, two, so what?
Yeah.
What was that old, well, I guess we'll throw her in the river.
Yes.
And if she...
Or throw her off if she flies.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
yeah,
that
I'll
was
throw
in
her
the
off a
something in The
cliff.
Simpsons.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. I'll throw her off a cliff, and if she dies, we were wrong.
We were wrong. Yes. I mean, we may have to I always think of the Shrek King, where he's like, some of you may have to die, but that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's nice.
Yeah, but that's how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
There was no order.
No order.
People were just throwing
And
pee
those
and
that
poop out
were in
windows.
order were also sociopaths, some of them.
Ugh, yeah, those kings and queens were not good people.
No.
Okay, so we're going to talk about our good pal, Maggie Pollock.
Good name.
She lived in Huron County, and I'm actually going to Google Huron County because I did Google that.
Sounds nice.
It's nice. It's here.
I had a feeling. I'm like, why does that sound local?
So it's near London.
Okay.
It's near London. Oh, and it's near Godric. Okay.
Oh, Godric. Okay.
We all know Godric.
I've
Okay,
driven through
shout
there. I've driven through there like twice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shout out to Huron County. If you're a listener from Huron County, we want to hear from you. If you scroll down underneath my sources, you'll find a little thing that says send us a text. Please do. If you want us to reply, make sure you include your email. Maggie Pollock was also referred to as Morris Township's gifted lady.
Gifted lady.
Maggie, or Miss Pollock, was born in Huron County on May 11th, 1879. So just a few years ago.
Okay.
She was of Irish descent and lived and worked on her brother's farm in Morris Township near Blythe. She claimed to be possessed with a peculiar occult gift that she used to help neighbors locate lost or stolen items and property. See, what's the problem with that? She's just helping out her fellow man.
Legit.
You lost your keys? Call Maggie. Maggie knows where they are. No
the
problem.
Mags, yep.
If it was 2024, she'd be a hot commodity. Mm-hmm. If you have any gifts like this, please keep them to yourself.
Yes.
Don't bring them to light in a capitalistic
them,
world.
Yeah.
I like what you said. Don't expose them. Following a peculiar court case, Maggie's gifts would earn her a sudden celebrity, not only in Huron County, but across the Huron County, but across the country.
Okay.
From a young age, she knew she had a special gift. At 16, when she realized she could see and hear things that others could not.
Okay.
I thought that was me too, and then I realized I just have borderline personality disorder.
You know what? I've only ever heard buzzing in my head. No voice.
Yeah.
I
could be tinnitus.
I almost would have preferred. Yeah. I almost would have preferred voices.
It's like anything for me can be medically explained this
Right.
far.
Yeah.
But good for Maggie. I'm down
for Mags.
with get your bag. While visiting a friend in Boston, Maggie realized she had seen the house and the elderly woman who lived there before. So she got like some deja vu.
Okay.
Around the turn of the century, Maggie experienced visions of two strange machines. The first, Maggie thought was a chariot of angels, but then she noticed the machine had wheels. It shocked Maggie when she saw the machine in the sky land right beside her and saw regular people disembark from it. Maggie saw the second strange machine when she was driving down the road and turned around to see a machine that ran like a train without a track behind it. These visions puzzled Maggie. It wasn't until years later when she realized she had seen an airplane and a car. many years before the modern versions were invented.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's wild.
So that's what those visions were.
Yeah. Cool.
And Maggie claimed her abilities were completely natural and unrelated to the occult. She's like, I was born this way.
Well, there's like that. Who's the one lady that's famous that called out September 11th? That called out, and everything has been right so far. That she's.
I don't know if this
I'll
lady.
look her up. I'll send it to you. But there's a few people out there, right, that are like.
Yeah, we
it's
should
almost like premonitions, but not. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They're
I
like
get-
they're visions, I guess.
Yeah. And I get that. I don't get visions, but I feel like I get a lot of deja vu.
I just have wild dreams.
Yeah.
Which you said you have.
Wild.
Wild. Yeah.
I'll tell you about one I had last night off mic. Do you like that? Off mic. I'm going to
Off
leave
mic.
that
Yeah,
in.
off mic.
I'm going to leave that in. Maggie claimed that there was no witchcraft or trickery involved. Her neighbors came to her for help, and she never guaranteed any results. So I don't think she took money either.
Okay.
When questioned about the things she saw, Maggie claimed she had no powers of her own, but that her visions and insights were a God-given gift, which she felt compelled to share when they came to her.
Mm.
So Maggie justified it to herself, saying that God, she's an Irish woman. She was an Irish Canadian woman, just believing that God gave her this beautiful gift to be able to help her neighbors. On June 30th, 1919, Maggie was brought to the Huron County Jail after she was accused of telling fortunes, which was illegal under Section 365 of the Canadian Criminal Code. In Godric, a farmer had testified that he had given Maggie 50 cents for a seance. A seance.
Seance. Oh, seances are cool.
Seance. For a seance. He did this in an attempt to locate oats and grain, which someone had stolen from him. It wasn't revealed in court whether Maggie's premonition actually resulted in recovering the oats and grain, but she saw a vision of a thief and was able to describe the thief's horse. She appeared before Godric Judge Henry Dixon, and the court decided that she did unlawfully pretend her skill and knowledge in the occult and crafty science to discover to discover when and in what manner certain goods and chattels, to wit, certain grain and oats supposed to have been stolen from one John Leinhart. So basically, Judge Henry Dixon said, you made it all up, or like you fabricated it, or you not fabricated it, you calculated it. Like you took the oats and grain, hid them somewhere, and then said you had this vision.
Okay, which, you know what, people have probably done. Not even probably, I know they've done it because there's been scams. Like,
absolutely.
So, yeah, but it sucks for those that were genuinely trying to help.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, law enforcement uses psychics.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they have. I mean, I think they still do. If they're desperate,
they give it a try.
They
Why
give
not?
it a try, but then they'll argue it like another. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the detective.
Well, it's like the seances and stuff. At one point, people were like setting booby traps in their house and tricks and stuff, you know, to make money, to turn a dollar. So
yeah, a grift.
Yes,
it was a grift, a con,
exactly.
A con artist.
And then there's the genuine. It's like one person ruining it for the rest.
Yeah, totally. On October 13th, 1920, Maggie's case was appealed to Osgoode Hall, one of the oldest and most distinguished legal associations in the country, by her counsel, Mr. C. Garrow. Osgoode upheld Judge Dixon's conviction, and according to the contemporary account of the Clinton News Record, and the Clinton News Record has been a tabloid publication in Ontario in the town of Clinton, village of Bayfield, and surrounding communities since 1865.
That's cool.
It was a broadsheet, which is the largest newspaper format, until it changed to a tabloid in 2006. So at the time of this quote, it would have been a legitimate newspaper and not a tabloid.
Okay, cool.
And the quote is, "The judge admonished her that the practice must cease and has bound her over in bonds of $200 from herself and from her brother to refrain from pretensions of occult power and from practicing the occult science." So basically they're telling her, stop finding people's stuff and give us $200.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
It's so jokes.
Members of the the court gave Maggie permission to offer her opinion about lost items, but not to claim that she had any special powers.
Okay.
So she can say, they're here, but
Let
not
me guess,
how she knows.
Was the courts like a Christian, like, outlook themselves? Like, I feel like the only people that have fucking problems with witches are all from, like, Christian or Catholic, like, beliefs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the religion.
Not that there's anything wrong with those religions. I mean,
No.
I don't play with them, but
Teach their own.
teach their own. But I also think that, like,
Freedom of religion. We're in Canada.
yeah,
Woo.
we are. It's exactly.
But
Like, in the case like this, like, it went against what they worshipped.
yes. So I think what you're talking about is separation of church and state.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is more. I think now that's more of a thing, but at this point, religion would have been so ingrained. And you'll hear in, like, when I speak about something else, you'll hear about how heavy, like, especially because the colonizers who came over,
Yes.
they were, like, from Britain, and in the case of
Yes.
Quebec, the French, they were Catholic.
Right,
They were
right,
all
right.
of different religions, and they were all trying to convert each other.
I know, it was wild
It was
times.
it was
Yeah.
wild times.
Yeah.
Members of the local community continued to support Maggie during her conviction and appeal, and her supporters were upset with her treatment in the legal system.
Good.
So they did not, yeah, right?
Good.
The Toronto Saturday Night chastised the judges and those involved with the case for harrying a poor old woman, because at this point she would have been older.
Right.
A neighbor, Mrs. Sinclair, also testified at Osgood Hall to corroborate the effectiveness of Maggie's gifts. She stated that Maggie had successfully helped her find a lost diamond ring. Maggie claimed to do this by speaking with Sinclair's deceased mother and told Mrs. Sinclair that she had thrown the ring out with some dust. Maggie added that Mrs. Sinclair would find the ring when the snow melted. And despite that advice, Mrs. and Mr. Sinclair decided to melt the snow, and the ring wasn't there. Like, so they probably, I don't know how they did it, but they melted the snow, maybe hot water.
Yeah.
And the ring was not there.
Right.
Mrs. Sinclair sent a letter to Maggie detailing what she had done and that she had not found the ring. Maggie replied that Mrs. Sinclair needed to be patient, and sure enough, 3 weeks later, the snow thawed and the ring was there.
Interesting.
So Maggie's legal battle gained widespread recognition in 1920. Yeah, because this is 1920. This is happening.
Yeah, these
It's
aren't
like just
modern
100
times.
years
Yeah,
ago.
Yeah, 100, yeah.
It was notable to some that an older woman from Huron County could perform such miracles, and others were shocked she could be accused of something as archaic as witchcraft, because it was 1920. They're like, witchcraft? Well, I'll be.
Yeah.
Sugar?
Yeah, sugar.
The Toronto Daily Star questioned the wisdom of the verdict. There is a fairly widespread belief of the occult. It is growing. Why not cope with this sort of thing more intelligently than by merely putting the ban of the law upon it? Man, I loved when the media would criticize law and government and not pander to it. Like, now you have to look at news outlets and you're like, okay, which leaning?
Right.
Like, which way is this news outlet leaning? Like, what kind of propaganda are they trying to feed me?
Yeah. What's their mindset?
At this time, the media's job was to question the government, was to question the powers that be, not pander to them. So I'd like to get back to that.
Yeah, I feel like we've taken steps backwards.
Like, if Trump wants to go back to tariffs, then why not give him why not give the media free reign again? But we're in Canada.
Yeah, but we're in Canada, I know.
In Canada,
There's
keep
so
my
much we
opinion
could
to
say on
myself.
it.
Keep my opinion to myself.
Right.
The same article suggested that rather than legal prosecution, a public test to determine the validity of Maggie's gifts would be the superior solution. So now for entertainment, they want to do a public test to see if she has this power. Her powers could simply be disproved or verified to harmlessly help with more cases of missing valuables. So if it is true, then they're going to absolutely use her. A large number of supporters did not doubt Maggie's abilities. She received many visitors and letters from people as far away as Florida, Texas, Missouri,
Dang.
Nebraska, California, and Vancouver.
Wow.
Her skills were allegedly sought after on the other side of the law as well. The police asked her to locate missing bodies of drowned persons several times.
Okay, there's the law enforcement.
Right? Including a young boy who had drowned in Wingham and a man who had fell through the ice in New Hamburg. The Seaforth News reported that Maggie was also paid a visit by High Constable A.J. Wharton of London, Ontario, to discuss the escape of 2 murderers from the London jail in 1927.
Okay.
Maggie Pollock passed away in August of 1931 when she was 70.
Oh.
Which was like a good lifespan.
I mean, it is a good lifespan. Yeah, okay.
It's a good lifespan. Especially being born in the 1800s.
Right.
She survived a lot of illnesses.
It's so true.
The Seaforth News said of her, she has honor in her own country because her neighbors have always had the utmost faith in her and can relate scores of interesting stories. She was fondly remembered as a well-known and highly respected resident of Morris Township. Despite the verdict of the witchcraft case, Maggie was able to continue to help others with her gifts as she had wanted.
Okay, that's good.
Whether those gifts were real is something up for debate, but one thing is certain, Miss Maggie Pollock was a magical woman.
Yeah, it makes people feel uncomfortable, the unknown.
Yes.
Like they don't know, there's no solid evidence, so it's like science doesn't lie, and that's why I always will back science. And it's like, but for something that like you can't explain, people get scared, right? And then they think it's something that's like demonic, or even if it's doing good, I mean, because that's what she was trying to do, right? Was good.
Yeah, she was trying to
do
good
by it. But I guess like if you read in the Bible, like they would be taught through those readings that
witchcraft is demonic.
Exactly. So,
and of the devil.
Yeah. But if they weren't taught that, then there would be like, you know, more support in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Less fear.
Less fear, right? Yeah.
Now we're going to discuss New France, aka some crazy witch trials that happened in Quebec.
Cool.
It's back in the day again, but it's quite interesting. So when things went wrong in 17th century Quebec, authorities were not above blaming black magic.
Okay.
So this is before the Maggie Pollock times.
Okay.
In the 1600s, New France was a frightening place, aka Quebec.
Right.
Its tiny population of 3,200 French settlers lived in fear of being rightfully raided by the Iroquois. And I put rightfully raided because they were the settlers.
Yes.
I said settlers. The colonizers.
The colonizers.
Lived in fear of being rightfully raided by the Iroquois.
Yes, rightfully. Yeah, exactly.
Jesuit missionaries were taken captive, tortured, and killed. Deadly epidemics raged because obviously the Europeans brought over a bunch of new diseases.
Yes.
Introduced a bunch of new diseases.
Yeah.
At the time, there was always a fire, always an echo of voices at night, and one nun took notice of this and started writing events to her son. Around that time, Ursuline nun Marie de l'Incarnation wrote of disturbing voices heard in the air, a fiery canoe, as well as other strange phenomena. She wrote this in letters to her son.
Oh.
L'Incarnation wrote in a letter to her son, what's more, it was discovered that there are sorcerers and magicians in this country. So she must have come from France, and she's writing to her son in France, maybe?
I see, okay.
And she's referring to the indigenous folks, I believe, by saying that. The nun observed the strange events that started happening around after the arrival in 1600 of a ship carrying new colonists.
Okay.
Among these passengers was 16-year-old Barbe Hale and a man named Daniel Vuille.
Okay.
Who was a Protestant-born Frenchman who had seemingly converted to Catholicism during the voyage.
Okay.
That's important.
Dang, okay.
And it goes back to what we're saying about religion. Right. So on the way, he was leaving France, and some man on the boat was like, listen.
Convince him.
yeah, we're going to convert you.
Yeah.
According to the nun, during the overseas journey, Daniel had tried to seduce Barb, but was refused. Like, she was like,
ew, get away from me.
No, thank you. After settling in Beauport near Quebec City, Daniel carried on his trade as a miller, and Barb went to work as a servant in a manor house. In December of that year, the manor house suddenly fell prey to strange phenomena. According to one account from a Jesuit missionary, the girl's home was so infested with spirits. Stones were flying from all sides as if thrown by invisible hands. Like stones were just like being thrown.
Creepy.
Hurting no one. They flew through 20 persons or so with a noise and a force so great as if they had been launched by a mighty arm.
Wow.
The young servant of the manor soon started experiencing demonic visions. Only the possessed girl saw the demons who appeared to her under various shapes of men, women, children, beasts, and hellish specters, and at last spoke through her mouth without seemingly using the possessed girl's own voice. So like think The Exorcist. Yeah,
I love The Exorcist.
At first, local people thought the house was haunted. Fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair assumption. This is the 1700s. Anything is possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Barb was moved to another place, but to no avail, and eventually the case got the attention of the Bishop of New France, so like a really religious guy, who ordered an exorcism.
Okay.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
When the local priest had no luck expelling the demons, the bishop came in person to try exorcising them himself.
Okay.
He was like,
Hardcore.
Move over, I will deal with it.
Yeah.
He like rolled up his sleeves. He's like, I've been waiting for one of these for 5 years.
Let me show you how it's done.
He was not successful, and the stones continued to fly.
Okay.
Barb was finally moved to the Quebec hospital, which was run by a convent that housed a woman called Catherine St. Augustine,
Okay.
otherwise known as Mother Catherine.
Yeah.
Mother Catherine knew something of demons. She was widely revered as the holiest woman in New France, and she had allegedly been obsessed with the devil since the 1650s. She was like, I'm an OG devil expert.
Yeah.
Demonic obsession, as opposed to possession,
Yes.
meant that she was a victim of attacks by demons but remained in control of herself.
Okay.
That's how she got around it.
All righty.
If you say so.
Yeah, if you say so, sure.
These demons showed themselves or fucked with Mother Catherine. She would see various figures, either to fool her, either to scare her. Sometimes they would shake her bed during the night. Other times they would act on her tongue or other parts of her body to keep her from praying out loud, confessing, receiving communion, taking holy water, or making the sign of the cross. So if she tried to do those things, the demons were like, In trying to heal Barb, Mother Catherine reportedly invoked the wrath of the girl's evil spirits.
Okay.
Those unhappy demons, unable to intimidate her with all their threats, tried to surprise Mother Catherine by changing themselves into angels of light in order to delude her. So they tricked. They did some trickery. Yeah.
All right. And we're sure this had nothing to do with mental health.
Yeah, this is all real and
Yes,
factual.
Okay.
These are first-hand accounts from the 1700s.
Yes.
In the meantime, the colony's authorities came to the conclusion that Barb's demons had been brought on by her fellow traveler from the ship from France, Daniel.
Okay.
So they were like,
Passed on.
it must be he must have done
He
it.
must have, been the vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took as proof the fact that the girl said he had started appearing to her. So she started hallucinating and saying he was appearing to her. Though
And this is all while on a ship, right?
This is off the ship now. This is
Off
while
the ship.
settled in Quebec.
Oh, settled. Okay.
Yeah. Though nobody could see the specter except Barb, Daniel was arrested anyway.
She needs a nutrition panel done.
Yeah.
Have her some
That's right.
blood work to see if she's deficient in anything.
Probably iron.
Yes. Yeah.
From the perspective of the nun,
Yes.
the man was a wizard. So this nun backed up everything. She was like, nope, he is a wizard. Facing the girl's refusal to his advances, Daniel would have then decided to achieve his ends through the ruses of his diabolical art, she said.
Okay.
So she said he was like really upset. She said no and held on to that. Witchcraft was the only reason authorities had for arresting Daniel. Imagine being arrested just for witchcraft.
Well, I'm sure it's something that many black people feel,
Touche.
you know?
Touche. Now who's woke? You
right?
are.
I am.
You are.
Yeah.
You're the one.
Imagine being arrested because of your color.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, because we're privileged.
Yeah, thank you. To imagine it is privilege.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, man. You are so
I'm
smart.
getting there. I'm getting there.
So proud of you.
Thanks.
You don't know how hard I'm smiling right now. I'm so proud. I'm proud. I'll sing you a song.
Yeah.
Find my place on the page. The bishop had traveled on the same ship as Barb and Daniel and was convinced he had converted Daniel to Catholicism. So really the bishop was probably just mad at Daniel. Because he was like, I converted this guy to Catholicism. Yet once in Canada, he discovered that Daniel was still a French Protestant.
Oh, okay.
In the eyes of the Catholic Church, that made him a relapse, which is a very grave offense punishable by death.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? That I was thinking about like how that term intersects with like recovery and like how it's like such like an offensive term. Like, not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly. It is wild.
It is wild. Another reason to point the blame at Daniel was that he was caught selling alcohol to local First Nations tribes.
Okay.
The bishop had been enforcing a rule to not indulge people who participated in trafficking. So being Protestant, accused of being a relapse, an alcohol trafficker, and a witch, things did not look good for Daniel.
Right. I think that's like what I technically am.
What?
But I don't align with like Protestant.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm like, of all those things, I'm like, which one?
No.
An alcohol trafficker?
No, because I always wondered, like, what was I raised as? But my parents aren't religious. But they're like, it would have been Protestant.
I was Anglican. I was baptized Anglican.
Okay.
But that's all I know about it.
Yeah.
Daniel was shot and killed on October 7th, 1661 in Quebec City.
Dang.
Right? Quebec City, shout out, sponsor us. We'd love to come do a spooky episode there.
Yeah.
In the absence of documents related to his trial, the exact reason for his execution is unclear and remains a topic of debate for historians.
Cool.
Which is cool, so it's still talked about today. The usual punishment for witchcraft in New France, however, was banishment and not death. Okay. So it's like odd he was shot. Historian André Vachon said that the real reason for his execution was that he sold alcohol to the Aboriginal people. At the time, the colony traded with Algonquins, Montagnans, Huron, and other groups. So he must have been going against someone they didn't, or giving, supplying alcohol to someone they didn't trade with.
Right.
Others have argued that liquor trafficking was not at the time an offense punishable by death, but religious offenses such as blasphemy and profanation were.
What was that called? Like, I always think of the beer baron, like Homer on The Simpsons. But when you were smuggling alcohol or making alcohol,
bootlegging.
Oh, bootlegging. Yeah. Yeah, it was hardcore, wasn't it?
Yeah, that happened in the 20s.
Yeah.
And probably now.
Yes.
According to historian Vincent Gregoire, he was most likely shot for returning to the Protestant faith after his alleged conversion to Catholicism by the bishop.
Right.
So this, again, separation of church and state.
Separation of church and state. Yes, I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
We get it. You want us to be Catholic.
Yes.
Barb continued to be plagued by demons for some time, even after Daniel had died. In 1662, Mother Catherine found a novel way to protect the youth from demon attacks. She had her sewn into a bag, so she had Barb sewn into a bag.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, this worked, and Barb returned back to normal health. Like, I'm wondering if it's like a potato.
Yeah,
like
potato sack?
Like a potato sack?
Yes.
Just sewn her in, made her sit there for a while. Yeah.
I'm just confused. I mean, there's so much there that I'm like, do we have
more information?
Yeah, something's... you sewed her into a potato sack and she came out on top.
For whatever reason this worked,
but
and Barb returned back to normal health.
If you didn't look at it from a religious standpoint, she seemed like she was fucking out of her mind.
Yeah.
But a potato sack cured her. That's so wild.
It's so wild. They must have bonked her on the head a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, Barb left the convent and led a relatively normal life, got married, and died when she was 52. Which was a decent lifespan for that time, for the 1600s. Like, Jesus Christ.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, bonked on the head a couple times.
Sewed her into a bag.
Well, I'll remember that tactic.
There you go, yeah. 3 decades later, in neighboring New England, Witchcraft hysteria culminated in the Salem witch trials of 1692.
I saw a clip of Salem during Halloween.
I know, we have to go.
Yeah, it looks crazy busy, but like...
Yeah, I don't think we should go during Halloween.
No.
Like August.
Actually, I have a friend who went to Salem and then met a psychic, and then when they went back home afterwards, did like an over-the-phone psychic reading, and it was crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll find out. You know who it was that had one, and I'll see if I can get her to give a little tidbit on it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So at the Salem witch trials, a total of 200 people, mostly women, were put on trial, and 20 of them were sentenced to death.
Of course they were.
Witch hunts never reached this level in New France.
You know how fun that would have been for the public and to
Just
have
walk around, witch, witch,
to execute, and all in the name of like
God,
or for the good of
the people.
Humanity and people. You must die. And they're just like, but I'm just a normal person. I swear you have it all wrong. And they're like, that's what a witch would say.
Yeah, that's honestly what a witch would say. Guess what, witch? After we kill you, you'll come back to life anyway.
Yeah, I think there was a couple. I want to know. I don't know why I'm thinking this for a reason, but I'm pretty sure, and I'll try to source it, that there was a couple women that, and it's quoted, that they were like, well, if you're going to kill me, they like played with they used it to their advantage of like, they knew they were going to die, and they were still like, I'm going to come back and fucking haunt you guys then.
I love that.
And they were like, kill her. And she was just like, you can kill me. Go ahead and kill me, but I will see you soon. Yeah. And I was like, that's so badass. That is so badass. I'll find, okay. I have a couple things I need to look into. But...
Yes.
And even if that didn't happen, I feel like I would do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm coming back for you.
For you specifically.
And you.
Cases in which people were accused of being in league with the devil were few and far between. Mm-hmm. One incident resolved a Montreal innkeeper, Anne Lamarck, who was formally accused of witchcraft in 1682. Witnesses testified that she possessed a book of magic spells. In her defense, Lamarck stated that it was just a book of herbs and medicines.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Protected by high-placed friends, she was acquitted, barely escaping banishment. In New France, where men greatly outnumbered women, there was more than one case in which a man was accused of putting a curse on a woman who had rejected his marriage proposal.
That's what I'm fucking saying.
How butthurt.
Yeah.
In 1657, René Besnard Bourgeois, that's one name.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Was convicted of placing a sterility spell on both the woman who had turned him down and her new husband. He was just accused of this. Okay. The couple was unable to have children, and their marriage was eventually annulled due to perpetual impotence caused by magic.
That's insane.
They just blamed this guy. They were like, you're the reason we can't have kids.
Yeah. Yep.
Bourgeois' punishment was banishment from the colony, and then he had to leave the colony and fend for himself. As for Mother Catherine, she remained in poor health and was reportedly besieged by demons of all sorts until 1668. You know what? I think Mother Catherine deserves a round of applause for absolutely playing up that demon card.
Yeah.
In 1682, a French royal ordinance laid the groundwork for decriminalizing witchcraft. It mentioned alleged witches and considered them blasphemous or charlatans, but made no reference to their supernatural powers.
Right.
The last execution of a witch in France took place in 1718.
And you know what's crazy? I'm like thinking of this in my head right now. How wild would it be? Because I'm sure it could have happened, that say like a priest or someone is like, you're a witch and we're going to kill you because you work for the devil. Meanwhile, he's a pedophile and
so many
molesting a child behind scenes, being like, this is what God wants.
Yes.
And, you know, completely manipulating.
And just being like, women are stupid. You don't know anything, your little lady brains.
Exactly. And that is just bizarre to me because I know it happened.
Yeah.
It's got to.
You know it did. It did.
It did.
Absolutely did.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure it still exists.
Absolutely
did. It does exist. But yeah, that's just crazy to be like, you're a witch and the devil, you work for the devil, I'm going to molest these kids back here because that's what God wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the whole Western world, the witch hunting craze that had claimed thousands of lives since the early 1500s was receding. Even the Salem affair of 1692 stands out as an exceptionally late case. New France had been relatively spared of it, but not completely, as the case of Barb and Daniel shows.
Okay.
There's one more thing I want to talk about because it's relevant.
Okay.
And it is enchanted flying canoes.
Okay. I love it.
From the very beginning of the settlement in New France, tales of bewitched canoes flying through the air were part of folklore. Which I love this. I'm like,
I love this. I want to see one.
Right?
I want to experience a flying canoe.
We got to go
with
to
witches.
We got to go to Quebec.
Yeah.
Their origin was a combination of an indigenous legend about a flying canoe and a folktale from France about a hunter condemned to be chased through the night skies for eternity because he went hunting on a Sunday during High Mass. Over time, homesick couriers and voyagers adapted the tale to suit their needs. This is a well-known version known as La Chasse Galerie, written in 1892. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but I'm doing my best.
That was really good.
In this story, thank you, woodcutters make a deal with the devil to quickly fly home to their sweethearts on New Year's Eve. But if they mention God's name, enter a church, or touch a steeple, then the devil will possess their souls.
Dang.
The men arrive home and attend a party, dancing all night long. The next morning, while flying back in their magic canoe, the drunk navigator just misses a church steeple and swears. He's like, fuck! Fearing they will all lose their souls, they tie the drunk guy up. Like all the other guys in the canoe, tie the drunk guy up. Meanwhile, the canoe crashes into a tree and its occupants are knocked out cold. They eventually wake up in their beds, though, completely unhurt.
Okay.
Today, the story lives on in the label of a brand of strong dark beer from Quebec. Maudite?
Okay.
Damned beer from Unibroue was launched in 1992. The brewery used the image from La Chasse Galerie to convey the idea of a deal with the devil because it was the first strong beer, 8%, to be sold in Quebec supermarkets.
Okay.
Okay.
You know what that reminds me of is...
That's why you're saying you're going to deal with the devil.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of is there's a Simpsons episode. They come across like the remains of what they end up digging up looks like a fallen angel.
Okay. Yes, I know the one.
And then it ends up being like for an outside mall that they're building. It's a
publicity stunt.
It's a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
And that's just, this is all reminding me of things to do with the Simpsons. But yeah, that's funny.
It's so funny.
I actually really enjoyed this topic. I hope we can like look into something else because it's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
But I know that it was taken so seriously because
So serious.
like we have so many things like science now to like back up our thoughts, and like as a believer of science, I just find stuff like this like so fascinating that people would kill over.
Right. Yeah.
And murder over.
Yeah.
In the name of like something that they thought was good. It's wild.
It's wild.
So it's interesting. So I would love to, maybe we can do.
Yeah, we got another part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great research.
Woohoo!
This was really good. I just like, there was a couple things I'll have to like look back on it and see, because I want to look into two things that I mentioned that I don't know enough about.
And write them down, and then we'll talk about them
I will.
On the pod.
On the potty.
Yeah, on the pod.
Maybe on the pod. That's horrible.
On the
I'm like, I
potty.
cringe myself at sometimes.
All right, well,
Merry
thanks.
Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
From the past.
Or if you're not listening to this on Christmas Day, then just have a great day.
Yeah, have a great one. Maybe not even Merry Christmas, just maybe you don't
Merry
celebrate that.
Creepmas.
Yeah, Merry Creepmas.
Merry
Happy holidays.
Creepmas. Don't let
Happy
the bed
just
creeps
not
bite.
celebrating anything. If you don't celebrate anything, just
Hanukkah.
enjoy
I'm gonna have
life.
to edit
Okay,
that out.
happy life. Enjoy life.
Happy life. Okay.
Creep it real.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thank you to Kyle McDonnell for editing and composing our theme song.